or not, I don't know, there's no telling, but it's already very impressive that this man that's spawning on the left top side of the map has been even able to even things up for now. He's of course representing Kulamessa Storm. It is Polt.
Yeah, he's really swung momentum back in his favor against this guy, the Red Protoss player who was up 2-0 in the bottom position from SK Telecom T1. He is classic.
Now, Merry-Go-Round, Nate, is a map that in general can be a little tricky for Protoss players. It's funny because when I first saw this map, I was like, man, it's going to be so easy to defend against drops because, you know, there's no space for medevacs to fly around the main base because of the unique design of this map. But it's actually still a pretty tricky map for Protoss, especially to go up to 3 bases because it can be hard to defend both the left side of the potential third base for Classic and his main, unless he would decide to expand all the way on the right side, but then you expand pretty far away, which gets a little tricky in general to defend.
Yeah. Polt, once again, command center first. He shows no fear in the face of Protoss danger.
Nope. Was not very successful with it the first 2 games, but after that definitely a lot more successful with it. So why not? Classic once more will most likely go for a probe scout. Definitely the type of things that you want to scout for. Of course, Merry-Go-Round is a map where in the past we've seen Terran players loving their very quick factory openings, their gas first builds, but it is risky to bust out a gas first in such an important game because if your little winter mine or a Hellion drop doesn't do any damage, it's like, well, I'm a solid 16 workers behind now against a world-class Protoss player.
Not a fun place to be, Kev.
Exactly.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, those gas first builds as strong as they are, I don't know if I've done anything quite as strong as that build we saw Polt break out in the last game. Of course, there's no way he does anything like that this game. That would really just blow my mind. So he can go back into playing standard, and on Merry-Go-Round, you have that very exposed third base, which is so important. And Polt is not taking chances. You see the way he scouted with his SCV. He's like, people like to build Stargates here, just check real quick.
Would definitely not be the first time that we see something being proxied in game number 5. Even earlier today we were able to witness that. Classic will go ahead and drop the Nexus on the low ground, so everything is standard so far. On the Protoss side off town, he has 2 probes in each simulator. We'll send an additional probe in now. Must be a little bit shaken up now as well, Nate. He played absolutely phenomenal on King Sejong Station. Of course, once more, he did have the resources to do so. Like, Protoss is an awesome race to play around with if you do have a lot of money, because that really allows you as a Protoss player to finally show off a little bit. Because in general, Protoss is the race that kind of sits back and you rely on those very expensive units like Colossus, but of course you don't have a whole lot, so you can't be too active out on the map early on. Classic had a crazy amount of resources to work with, and he really showed us that all those resources were in the right hands. He's gonna go for a Stargate opening once more. Now we saw him open up with Stargate on Foxtrot Labs, and I was digging his Oracle control. It really doesn't get much better than that against a Terran player that's relatively prepared, has Marines on the right locations, and he still found a way to kill 6 or 7 SCVs with his first try. Like, that's ridiculous. That's not supposed to happen. That should not even be possible, but Classic did it. So we'll see how successful he will be this time with his Oracle.
Yeah, I mean, his Oracle control is definitely something to be envied. Polt, this game is going for a standard 3-rack setup. There's the Oracle on the production tab. Now, Polt is still kind of checking around. He's got a unit on the bottom left side. I mean, if he left it there, then he might accidentally spot the Oracle, but not gonna happen. Stalker follow. So do you think we see, he hasn't built the Forge at the same time as the Stargate, of course, so is he just gonna go for straight into Robotech after this, or well, I guess there's the Forge now.
It could be the same build. Like, the build in theory was shaping up to work out pretty well, especially because Polt decided to move out anyway with the first 2 medevacs, and I think if he didn't lose all the probes, it's definitely something that Classic could have worked with, but you're right, it could definitely still be a robotics facility follow-up as well. Anyways, this is going to be very important. How well will this Oracle do for Classic? Surprisingly, the first time it killed 6 or 7 SCVs. There are once more Marines in position. We'll see if Oracle number 2 is able to find some sweet openings as well. And so far, Nate, exposed mineral line is a good way to start.
Yeah, not bad at all. I mean, at the very least, we talked about this earlier, even if those workers get away, they're not mining, they're not doing what SCVs want to do, which is mine freely.
Oh, this Oracle might actually be trapped now. There's not a whole lot of these Marines are going to try to get some shots up. It's really close, but he won't get it.
Too close for comfort on that one.
Yes. This is how Oracles normally behave. You get 3 kills, and then it survives with 5 HP or it dies.
And you're like, oh yeah, I saved it. I can always run back in later. It's like, well, actually, then it will instantly die because there's no hit points on it.
Yep, few more gateways going down, and the Twilight console as well. So it's pretty identical to what we saw in Foxtrot Labs. Obviously, the Oracle has done a lot less damage, but it was still alright. It got 3 SCVs and a Mule and a little bit of mining time lost. And it's still around. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, if you keep that Terran
Phoenix
player pinned back just a little bit, as you said, there's the Phoenix. I mean, this build was really focused around when that +2 armor finished with charge. Like that's really where this build reaches its tipping point. And if you don't get that big attack and kill 19 probes, Roddy, you can afford to build a lot of Zealots.
Yep, exactly. And then you can just smash the Terran army in the middle of the map. Your Phoenixes can just be right-clicked on the Medivacs. Your Zealots will take care of the rest. Careful with that Oracle. Oh my god, Classic is playing with fire. Does pick off 2 more Marines, so he racked up 5 kills now in total. Does he have 4 HP?
Yeah, that Oracle he's a brave one.
That's ridiculous.
So, charge is on the way. This isn't going to line up with +2 armor anymore, but still pretty strong if you were to go for a big gateway attack when charge finished.
The ramp is pretty wide on this map as well, so in general you could say, you know, there is potential for a lot of Zealots to just swarm around the Terran army. And once again, it's really important that Polt picks up on the fact that there are Phoenixes on the map, because that's not a given. Very often it's just an Oracle into...
I mean, it's not normal to just build Phoenix in this matchup. You always want to, after that Oracle, go into the Colossi. But Classic, he's not playing like your normal Protoss, and Oracle finally dies.
Good job there by Polt picking up those Marines, allows those Marines to be a little bit quicker. So even before Stim is ready, he was able to put them in a position to shoot that Oracle down. Good move. Once again, the Templar Archives is going down pretty quick. The Phoenix count is currently sitting at 3. The Zealot count is at 7. And we are working off 6 gateways, so he's able to wipe in 6 Zealots at a time. Classic is trying to get closer and closer with these pylons. Now this is really risky, and this is what I always say, Nate. I don't think if you know that you're playing against Phoenixes, you should not be out on the map. Because if Polt ends up losing these 2 Medivacs and these bio units, it's going to be extremely difficult to defend the counterattack.
Oh yeah, I mean the Templar Archives is going to finish soon. He's got his +2 armor on the way in. Once those Archons come back in, your army will get absolutely annihilated if you're behind on supply.
Polt is still not sure of what he's playing against. I think the moment that he knows it, he's going to fly everything back home immediately. And I think that's a great call, because you just want to have all of your units in your natural now. This is not an opening that Classic can easily transition out of. Even though while I say that, he is dropping a robotics facility and he's getting stormed. Okay.
It's not a bad call. He's just going to go straight for the 3rd base. Maybe he wants Polt to think it's going to be that big attack. Has he started placing any supply depots by that bunker? Not yet.
Yeah, but he did bring everything home, and he will think twice before...
Yeah, he's just going to take a 3rd base and chill for a little bit.
Yep, nothing wrong with that, because that would still force that entire Protoss army to come out to actually do something about it.
Yeah, well, now 4 Medivacs are loaded up, and oh boy, where are the Phoenix? Over towards that 3rd base.
The Protoss army is pretty far out of position. A couple of bio units from Polt on the right side are working on these pylons, and it's not about what these units do, it's about what they see. They see that this entire Protoss force is out of position, all the way on the right side of the map. Scan goes down in the main base. Here come the Medivacs. There are only a few Zealots and a Photon Overcharge. I think Classic is going to lose quite a few units over here, Nate.
Yeah, he really wants to still get these Medivacs. He does not want there to be an escape plan for these bio forces. If he can kill all of this, that's nice, but he's not mining in his main. These Zealots are dying one by one. Storm is ready. The Templar, though, they move quite slow. Is he going to pick up? Oh, he just needs to immediately drop as soon as he gets across the gap here.
Actually, focuses the wrong Medivac. Does get one of them. A couple of Marines do get unloaded. There are a few bio units, at least there were a few bio units.
He saved something.
Yeah, there were bio units on the right side of the map as well, working on this Nexus, but Classic did a good enough job in warping in a few Zealots to take care of that. So really well done, because if he loses that Nexus as well, that's just where things go from bad to worse as a Protoss. But now he keeps it alive, so he's definitely still in this one. And the next time, Nate, he's going to have the luxury of dropping some Storms.
Yeah, he's got a really nice tech setup. That +2 armor is
what a crazy game. I think it's really hard to call. It's not a game that we see very often, and I mean, we see quite a few PvTs in this day and age of StarCraft 2, but I don't really see them shape up like this frequently. I mean, I find it very hard to call who is ahead.
Yeah, none of these games have really looked all too standard, aside from the game where Polt was just really far behind on King Sejong Station.
Yep.
The Phoenix, they shut down the drops, like you said, and now the War Prism with that upgrade advantage of the +2 armor. Once those Zealots get in, he starts warping in Zealots inside of Polt's base, things are going to get bit complicated.
There are a few Vikings to sort of take care of that, and Polt could fly over a couple of bio units to start taking care of that as well. Has to make sure that he doesn't lose the eBay, even though the eBay is not really researching anything. Again, Classic just immediately goes for the reactors. This guy truly hates reactors.
Man, they're so important for the production forces of the Terran. Terran production is one of the biggest weaknesses that we have, and he's really been going straight for the gut here. The Phoenix come over to the third, cleans out the mineral line, and he's actually got the Phoenix and the Templar to deal with those Vikings if they try to get too close.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of economic damage there. It wasn't for free, as he did lose more than a handful of Zealots, and he lost the War Prism, and I think maybe one Phoenix in the process, but he killed 13 SCVs, and he forced that Command Center to lift up. Polt is going to try to make something happen once more with Medivacs. This time he's taking the north route, because of course he wants to do something about that base on the right side of the map, especially, you know, since Classic is so active with his forces in the middle of the map. He's going to try to look for an opening, but it's tricky right now. It's very risky, of course, because normally you can fly away against a Protoss player, but against 6 or 7 Phoenixes, there is often no retreat. You're committed to whatever you send across the map. You have to be aware of the fact that there is a good chance it will die.
Yeah, Polt starts his 2-2 upgrades as +3 armor is on the way for Classic. That's so important to have that +3 armor with these Zealots, as it makes these Marines a lot worse. The Ghost count is pretty damn impressive, though. EMPs are going to destroy a majority of the forces until he gets Colossus out.
Okay. Classic does pay attention to his Phoenixes. Looked like they were AFK for a split second. There is a War Prism flying into the natural with 2 High Templars in it. Classic could definitely make something happen over here. Polt doesn't have too many SCVs.
The Storm drive-by, getting a nice couple SCV kills. 9 picked off, not bad at all. As long as you keep that War Prism alive, you're good.
This is risky. A couple of units being sent forward. There are a lot of High Templars waiting for all these bio units. These units are committed because the Phoenixes are here as well. I think this is going to go pretty poorly for Polt.
Yeah, Classic chasing, picking up those Marauders, and even if he gets these Marines, man, he can't turn around and fight. He has nothing to really deal with this. He can continue to chase, and if you get those Medivacs, 4 Medivacs completely open in the air.
Yep, all of these Marauders getting picked off as well. Very, very ineffective hit squad there by Polt, losing a lot of these bio units pretty much for free. And to make it even worse, to add insult to injury, he lost SCVs at home during all that. He does have a crazy amount of High Templars there, and fighting, a crazy amount of Ghosts, and fighting against, oh no, the High Templars! No!
That sentry?
Unfortunately, the Ghosts were a little bit in the back. The Ghosts are strong though, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a great spread on his army. Now that the Storms have been taken care of, those Ghosts still deal an incredible amount of damage to the Zealots because they're light units. And this Archon not too powerful on its own.
Very awkward engagement there for Classic. Most of his units out of position. His entire mineral line is being evacuated for one single Zealot. These units are sort of caught between a rock and a...
You are not getting out of here with these bad boys. That +3 armor is almost done too.
It's like the tables are turned.
Yeah.
Now the Protoss army is strapped for once.
It's done for 5 seconds before +2 attack finishes.
But during all this, there are Colossus in production for Classic. Of course, if Classic loses all of these Zealots, that would be very painful. There are quite a few bio units waiting to receive this army on the south side, but that's actually not enough. He really needs those other units to come back home. A couple of the Ghosts will get picked off as well. Those are always expensive units to lose. Look at the amount of Zealots that Classic is just sending across the map.
I mean, +3 charge lots, man. They are pretty strong. Now the Templar coming up. If you can get some flanks, that would be huge. The Immortals will really allow him to deal well with those Marauders moving forward. The Storms hit a little bit. Not crazy, though.
Yeah, there are Immortals helping out as well. Polt's supply is dropping rapidly. He still has a reasonable amount of army supply to work with, but even though he had a very high Ghost count, there are still a lot of Storms connecting with all these bio units.
I mean, the Storms kill the Marines, the Marauders are killed by the Immortals. A large portion of this is finally cleaned up, but the Colossus is here. Storm's going to shave off just a few more hit points.
Yep, that Colossus is a real game changer right now. There are no Vikings on the map. It doesn't seem like there are enough Marauders to actually come close to this Colossus.
There's not enough. There's no Colossus range just yet, so he's got to play ball with it a little bit, but the Zealots just keep the Marauders away. He's completely pinned down Polt's army. Classic's taking a 20-30 supply lead now, pushing Polt away off of his third base, back into his natural expansion.
Great series so far, but it looks like Classic has taken control of it for now. It's definitely not over yet, as Polt will try to just regroup, recollect all of his forces one time. It is just one Colossus for now, you could say, but being down 50 supply, being down 36 workers as well, that even if Polt would somehow stabilize, he will be fighting a crazy economic uphill battle.
Yeah, now with more Templar coming in, more Archons to support this army. Those Zealots, man, they just tank so much damage with that +3 armor.
Those Zealots look like Zerglings. That's how many I saw, Nate.
Yeah.
Can we make sure that he didn't spawn Zealots two at a time?
They look like Zerglings and they die like Hellbats very slowly.
There are a few Vikings in the mix now. Those Vikings can start working on this one Colossus. Look at that one Phoenix still contributing to this fight as well, picking up a Marauder or two. Archon's in the mix and all these High Templars. There are no more goals. We had so many goals. But the story of Polt's career has always been great TVP player, but not fantastic with the ghosts. And I almost felt that that's almost what costed him this game.
I mean, look at the way Classic tailored all his builds. He couldn't drop him at all, and Polt just cannot win these straight up fights against